All right, folks, there are 36 million eligible Hispanic voters this election cycle, meaning the pathway to victory runs through the Hispanic vote. And there are 1.4 million more Hispanic voters eligible this election cycle than even in 2022. So, to discuss the trends of the Hispanic voting bloc and the issues that matter to us most, I've invited some friends from the community. These are experts in their fields to really dissect and discuss how to win the Hispanic vote. So, welcome to the Roundup. All right, folks, so whether it's YouGov, Pew Research Center, or even the New York Times, the data is clear. Kamala Harris is on track to have the worst performance with Hispanic voters for a Democrat presidential candidate. And to discuss this trend, I'm so excited to be talking to my friend, Mercedes Schlapp, who is a senior CPAC fellow and former White House advisor. Mercy, great to have you.
Great to be here.
So let's talk about, how the coalition, the Democrat coalition, has to have the Hispanic vote to get across the finish line. And for years, they thought if we keep going left, the Hispanic vote is going to go with us.
Right.
CPAC, under your leadership, launched CPAC Unidos. You're actually visiting these battleground states with heavily Hispanic populated districts. You are hearing the issues. Tell us why Hispanic voters are leaving the Democrat Party and embracing President Trump.
Well, Abraham, first of all, you all in Bienvenido have been critical in being able to reach out to these Hispanics in these critical districts within these battleground states. And so we're so honored to be able to have partnered with you and really getting out the message to Hispanic voters in both English and Spanish. Look, I think for a long time, and I'm going to have to age myself here because for a long time, back to the President George W. Bush days, which is when I really started getting involved in Hispanic communications and Hispanic grassroots outreach, there was always this sense of like, we're the natural party for the Hispanic community to just come our way. But Hispanics failed. I think that, in terms of the party leadership in really doing enough to connect to the Latino voter. And so what I have seen is literally starting, I would say, even with the 2020 campaign, which I was on that campaign with a small group of us that kind of said, let's go out there and try something different. Let's really make sure we're speaking their language. Let's make sure they understand the policy issues, just common sense policy issues that make sense, and really court that vote. And so we did make some significant increases in 2020. But then 2024 has been just something, I think, spectacular to watch right now, which is that Donald Trump is speaking their language. He is speaking the Latino language, that of faith, that of family, that of country, and that of understanding that so many of these people that have left, their family members or they themselves have left these oppressive socialist/communist countries with little economic opportunity to come to America to live in a safe and prosperous nation that they could raise their children, that is their goal. And so what they're seeing is that then they look at the Democrat agenda and they're saying, wait a second, these Democrats are literally pushing down our throats like abortion till the last month. Gender ideology, puberty blockers on our children because to them there's 60 genders. Like this indoctrination of our children and this woke agenda is so destructive and so anti-Latino that it has given Donald Trump an opportunity to come in with the Republican Party and say, take a look at us. We want you guys to be successful. We want you guys to raise your kids with your values. And, we want you to be able to worship freely. We are not here to dictate to you, yes, if you have a boy, then that means that the boy can become a girl. That is not where the Republican Party is. And so it's given the Republican Party a chance and President Trump to really say, I want to earn your vote and I stand with you in making sure that your family is free, safe, and prosperous.
I find it so funny, and I chuckle a little bit when the mainstream media just can't understand, can't fathom how Hispanics are gravitating towards President Trump. And I go back to 2019 when we launched Bienvenido at the White House, and one of the top senior advisors to President Trump was this girl from Miami who spoke about the American dream, her parents being Cuban exile, and her name was Mercedes Schlapp. These are the type of people that President Trump was surrounding himself. So it was obvious for someone like me to gravitate toward President Trump because around him were people that looked like me, sounded like me, came from the community as yourself. Being the former White House Director of Strategic Communications, first and foremost, my hat goes off to you because being, the communications director for President Trump must have been quite a journey. But walk me through what it's like to work for President Trump in that capacity. And also, you being in the White House, what do you expect a second term looks like for President Trump?
Look, so it was the greatest honor of my life to serve the American people and to serve President Trump. It was every time I'd go into the White House, I was always humbled by being given such a responsibility to do good, to do what is right, and to provide my experience there. And I always admired President Trump because he would bring in, the secretary of whatever department along with his senior advisors. And we would be sitting in a room and, I would just quietly be sitting like on the sofa in the Oval Office. And he would look at me and be like, Mercedes, what do you think? And he valued each one of our opinions. And then from there, he was able to make executive decisions. And it was great when, you would win the battle, let's say, after the debate within the Oval Office. But I do feel that I was there to also be a voice for Latinos and to understand that they had their issues that we needed to deal with, that we wanted to make sure they were included in that discussion and the decisions that were being made. And then, of course, obviously communicate that to them through the Spanish language media and those outlets that the Hispanics would be listening to as well. And so it was a great honor to do that. I remember a lot of times whenever we were dealing with more of the delicate kind of immigration debates, or, for example, on issues dealing with Latin America, to just be able to be in the room and really understand, because I follow so closely what the Latino community is saying, and being able to provide that feedback and say, look, these are the pitfalls we're going to see. These are the opportunities we're going to see. What do we need to do to make sure these issues are addressed? I think that was very critical to do. And I do feel that as we enter into the second Trump administration, because I do believe cautiously optimistic that he is going to be victorious. I mean, you can't have that many people pray over the president and not win. Okay, I'm like
Yeah,
at that point already. I'm like, we had an opportunity to pray over him. All I
yeah.
know is there's so many people praying for President Trump while you have Kamala Harris basically saying, yeah, Jesus is Lord. Well, you go to the other rally. This is not the rally you should be in. And
Yeah.
I do feel that, look, I feel he's a changed man.
Wow.
We were with him. We saw him just this week at the Latino Roundtable.
Mhm.
And there's something that has changed. And I do believe because of those assassination attempts, that he felt like that really God was by his side and that God
Wow.
spared him because he has such a big responsibility to basically revive this country
Yeah.
and so I think there's a part of him that's going to come into this office more humble, more focused on understanding that he's got 4 years to do a lot of work and he's going to get to work immediately. And so I think, those of us that have been part of this process, hopefully there'll be opportunities for more Hispanics to be part of this administration, to really have a critical voice in making these decisions like we did back in 2020. And so I mean, back in 2016. So I am very hopeful, and I feel that his focus will be first and foremost, let's get the economy stabilized again. Let's
Mhm.
lower these prices. Let's figure out how people shouldn't be hurting as much.
Mhm.
And part of that is he's going to unleash this economic prosperity in America and have that trickle down to Latino families and American families.
No, I agree with you, Mercy, and everything you're saying. I think it's just confirmation of what I've been feeling. I think, not to be over dramatic about it, but I think this election has already been decided, and I think it was decided when the hand of God was over President Trump in
Yeah.
Pennsylvania that first day of that first assassination attempt. But it requires work, and which is why I wanted to kind of wrap up with this question. Miami, your hometown. We're
Right.
seeing early voting, Republicans outpacing Democrats in early voting.
Yeah.
Now, this took years of work. I go back to looking at what you did with the campaign in 2020, investing in South Florida, and then we saw some gains in 2022 in the midterms, and now in 2024 we're seeing more Republican voters going out for early voting. I think what our side gets really frustrated about, Mercedes, is that we want Republicans tend to want to invest in a kind of day of impact,
Yes.
and you don't
Yeah.
realize that the investment you do today, you might not see those results for another couple election cycles, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
So with Hispanics being the second largest voting bloc and the fastest growing electorate, we can't stop with investment. So talk to me about what can we look forward to CPAC Unidos, going into the next midterms, the next presidential election? Like,
Right.
what are your thoughts on the work that we're going to be doing together there?
Well, my favorite call this week, obviously, other than seeing the president, was when you called me and you said, "Hey, I think this model is working.
Mhm.
Let's build it even further." And I would say your vision and your mom's vision, Betty, of understanding and being investing in these districts ahead of time is
Mhm.
going to be it's going to be the game changer in this election. And, we talked about it already. We were like, okay, once we're done with this, let's move straight into Virginia because we have obviously a critical governor's race in Virginia. You're going to likely have two minority candidates that are going to, duke it out during the primary between, I think, Winsome Sears and possibly the AG Mayaras. So I feel that Virginia is going to be a great place to apply the work that you've all started, that we've all started with you in being able to amplify. Look, I think for CPAC Unidos, what's very unique is that, and it really came about not only in our conversations, but because we've already done CPAC Mexico, CPAC Brazil, and now we're going to CPAC Argentina. And one of the things I'm learning is that, and we spent time with Bukele down in El Salvador. And what's really opening the doors is that these people are looking at our organizations and saying, wait a second, they are investing in our countries in Latin America. Like we have, they've lost Venezuela, they've lost Nicaragua, we've lost Cuba. They're like, we have to try to make sure that Latin America doesn't fall into the hands of the Chinese. And so
Mhm.
even the Latinos that are here, I remember when President Bukele from El Salvador really pointed to the diaspora in America
Yeah.
and sent a very direct message to them to say, hey, I am doing what I can to build a strong, prosperous, and safe El Salvador.
Hmm.
And so the mere fact that us at CPAC are able to have those connections in Latin America, bring them back here and say, look, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, but us conservatives, we are going to make sure that I do actually care if they're Republican, but we're going to make sure that we are doing what we can for your countries to be free, for your countries to be prosperous. And they're looking at America because America is kind of that last hope. It is the last hope. They came here for a reason.
Hmm.
And that reason is because they want a better life for their families that they weren't getting in their countries. But what if we're able to have a strong America under the leadership of Donald Trump? And then in that case, also, that means that Latin America benefits because they don't then have to rely on China, but the US can step in, build stronger trade relations with them, and try to get to a point that it's a more stabilized region. So I think there's huge, exciting opportunities. And I think for us, with the work that you all are doing, it's just the beginning of something that I think is going to be transformational as Latinos will turn more and more to supporting the Republican ticket.
Well, Mercy, thank you so much for that. And every time I talk to you, I get so excited. I just want to go out there and hit the campaign trail. So
I
the
know.
left and Kamala Harris might use their out of touch Hollywood elites, but our side, we have people like you who understand the values that our community cherishes. So I'm excited to continue our work together, and we're excited for election night. So thank you, Mercedes, for all that you do, and I hope to have you back soon.
Yes, of course. And thank you. Thank you for your leadership. You're such a strong voice out there, exactly what we need to be able to communicate to the Hispanic community to let them know that, we're on the right side of this and we're going to earn their vote and make sure that they understand that we are the party of truth. We are the party of hope. And we are the party that obviously of faith as well, such a critical part of our nation.
Amen to
Thank
that.
you.
Amen to that. All right. Well, thank you, Mercy. Appreciate you. We'll see you soon.